Hello, my name is Katie Newman, and I am the 8th grade English teacher on the Discovery team. And I want to thank you for watching this video. If you are watching it at home, thank you for taking the time. If you're watching this at Back to School Night, welcome. I am very sorry that I couldn't be here this evening. If you have any questions after watching this video, please feel free to email me. I would be happy to answer any additional questions or provide any additional information that you may like. To let you know a little bit about myself before I go into details of the program, this is my 11th year teaching in Fairfax County. This is my 5th year at South County Middle School. I am a local. I went to the University of Virginia and West Springfield High School. I live locally with my husband and my 2 daughters. I have a 1st grader and a 2nd grader. So by the evenings, we are pretty tired in our house. To give you some details about the program, I wanted to go into some of our grading information first. Our 8th grade team grades on a mastery learning scale, which basically means that instead of getting what would be, let's say your child writes a paper, they get a letter grade on the paper, they get comments, maybe they're allowed to upgrade, maybe not. And this year, really the emphasis, and on our 8th grade team, the emphasis is on mastering the skills. So on any given assignment, your child will be evaluated based on specific skills that they'll know ahead of time. Everything is attached to a rubric. I grade by rubrics. You can find those on my Blackboard page. So let's say an assignment, I may be looking at 2 reading skills and a writing skill. So instead of 1 score on an assessment, your child will be getting 3 scores. So they're 3 smaller scores, and I list those on the, when you see grade sheets, which I'll show you in a moment, they are listed by skill and not by assignment. And the goal here is for students, like I said, to learn the skills. So they have an opportunity, if they don't get it right the first time. We do in-class revisions. I'll do mini lessons, conference with students, add comments to their documents they're working on. And so they really know what they need to do to improve, and they have an opportunity to ask questions and then revise right when it's fresh on their mind. So particularly for larger assignments, I give in-class time to do revisions. And this next slide is an example of a grade sheet. So this is a snapshot that I took from a student's grade sheet last year. And so when you see these at home, all 4 of these assignments are for, or these skills listed are for 1 assignment. So on the left, you'll see the skill. So on this particular assignment, I was looking at reading skills, so general understanding, developing interpretation, etc. And if you look to the right of the colon, that's the assignment name. So you'll see like 4 same assignment names all in a row, so you know that those are all for the same assignment, and they typically also share the same date. So here's your next assignment, and it'll list whether it's formative or summative, and also whether it was a non-graded task. I do for some, like when students are sending home their reading goals in the beginning of October, they'll be bringing home reading goals that you'll need to sign. It's not a graded assignment, but I do list it in the grade book so you can see if there's something that you needed to see at home. You'll be able to look there and say, oh, what about this syllabus page? I know I was supposed to sign. And one of the things that you can look at when it's broken down by skill is how your child is doing with that particular skill. So on the right-hand side, you've got M for mastery, and then you have 2 additional codes here that you'll see that it's actually a mastery revision, mastery revised. And so what that means, typically when parents email, if they're asking, what can I do to help my child improve, or what does my child need to do to improve? And a really good window into how they're doing in the class is whether or not you see these R codes. If you see several partial masteries in a row and there are no R codes, it means that they didn't take advantage of the revision opportunity, which I encourage them to do. I do, when I send home grade sheets, there is a deadline for revisions, but I include those in a note section on grade sheets. So students, and I give them printouts, so they'll know, okay, I have a week to get these revisions done and turned in. But when you're looking at these for the first time, they go home, I encourage you to talk to your child about them. We will be seeing a printout in class, and we'll be talking about them ahead of time. And I've encouraged them, particularly since this looks a little different than how it looked in previous years, just to have them walk you through it that first time, and then it becomes pretty standard once you get used to reading them. One of the things that we do every class is read between 10 to 15 minutes silent reading, free choice reading every single day. So their most important supply for this class is a book to read. Now, I know some students come into 8th grade and they don't like reading. But it is my view, my very passionate view, that they just don't like what they've read yet. So the goal this year is for them to find their gateway book. When you think, there's a study done a couple years ago that the average college student reads between 200 and 600 pages of text a week. And so when you think about your child as they go into high school and as they then venture off to college, do they have those reading habits in place? So this is really the start of that, to make sure that if they are not someone who's an avid reader and likes it, the goal is to hopefully get them to that point where they find that one gateway book that they then want to read the whole series or all of the author's books, that type of thing. Next, I have a Blackboard page set up. However, everything for this class is on Google Classroom. That's where I post notes. That's where I post the agendas for each week. So here's an example of one from last year. This is an invaluable resource for your child when they're absent, because I will attach, if I gave a handout in class, I'll attach the documents that I handed out that week or on that particular day. And so students can open those, and either they know, they don't necessarily have to print it, but then they know what they can ask me for if they're walking by class the following day, to say, hey, could you give me that, grammar worksheet or what have you. It is a student-only access portal, so I strongly suggest that you have your child share the password with you, because at any given time you can see what assignments they're working on. Our papers are all submitted here, the directions for them, the rubrics for them. Here's an example of an assignment. It looks a little different in a student portal, but you'll have the assignment title, the rubrics, the due date, whether or not they've done it, because you can click on it and it'll open their assignment. I upload rubrics to that. So it's a really invaluable resource if you want to know what they're working on in class. They can open this and show you. An overview of some of the units that we're working on this year. We have nonfiction going throughout the year, but we have a more explicit nonfiction unit at the beginning of the year where the kids are investigative journalists, and so they are looking at how nonfiction is actually reported in the world via text, via like actual text, not phone texting, but on the phone, like as far as like interviews, podcasts, news programs, and then they get to cartoons, then they get to create their own investigative reporting, and create a project with a couple other students in class based on a topic of social importance that they want to pursue. And that's how we're starting out the year. Next, we're going into a fiction unit looking at songs, which is one of their favorites, poems and short stories. And this is their introduction to literary analysis. So we're not just looking at plot and being able to identify all the different parts of plot. It's really looking at author purpose, of why did the author end the story here? Or why did they kill off this character? Or why, did this particular character make this choice? What impact does it have on the story? And really more importantly, big picture, how does that relate to us? Like why do we talk about literature and really look at what that says about us as people, what it says about us as a society. So that's where we're starting with short fiction. And then we're going to be moving into a more in-depth literary analysis project using To Kill a Mockingbird. And this will also, we're going to be bringing in some nonfiction elements here. There's so much that's autobiographical in the story. And there's also, I think, sadly, a lot that relates to modern day events in the news and just some of the racial disparities we see in modern day. So that's something we're going to be exploring, also with some creative short fiction, since they've been looking at it for a decent amount of time at that point. And then finishing up the year, we're going to be doing a literature circle unit where I book talk 6 to 8 titles, and then they rank them. And really what we do with this unit as they're reading is we look at trends in literature. Young adult literature really does a kind of the coming of age tale, whether it's Ender's Game, which is straight up sci-fi, or even like if you look at To Kill a Mockingbird, you've got coming of age. So they look at how, even with really across genre, how characters, they really go through the same types of journey. So that's what we're going to be finishing up the year with. And if you, after listening to this, after watching this, if you have any additional questions, my email is here. And I would be happy to discuss with you further any other questions or concerns you may have. Thank you so much for your time.